The Swifties dealing with loss for the first time in 4 years.
Glorious.
Is fantastic.
Glorious.
I am loving every second of it as well, mostly because I picked the Eagles. But, and actually I got to say that on our show, but we also got to talk on Talk Erie. We have the big boss, Joel Natale, on the mic this morning, running the ones and twos. How you doing, buddy?
Gentlemen, doing well. Happy Monday. I feel like this should be a federal holiday,
I agree.
Super Bowl Monday
I agree.
observed.
I said this last night. We were talking about it, and I put it on X as well. There's no other games going on. There's nothing. Why can't we move the Super Bowl to a Saturday? Like, why does it still have to be on a Sunday night?
No idea. Can we get it a little bit earlier instead of 6:30 p.m.? Can we do it like 3?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. The game was fast paced, and I was in bed by 10:30, which I was not expecting or complaining about, for that matter.
No.
But no, it was a great game. We're going to talk more into that later. We got a lot of stuff we want to get into. As always, you can follow along. Follow us online at GemCitySN. By the way, we're giving away some tickets later. We'll have more information on that later in the show.
I think that's called a tease.
Ooh, in the biz. So give us a follow at GemCitySN on X, on Facebook, anywhere you can find us, and we'll have more details coming up on how you can win some Otters tickets. Anything else?
Let's get rolling.
Let's do it. We got so much always.
Let's get into it. All right. Let's jump into the North Shore Rewind, brought to you by Duska's Funeral Home. All right, as is tradition here on Flagship City Sports Talk, we go round the horn, and each of us will select our District 10 player of the week. Paul, you go first today.
Awesome. Well, as per usual, I have multiple.
Well, we all bring a couple,
right.
But,
At
you
the
never
top
know.
of the list today, a guy we've talked about a few times on this show, Kenny Godoy from Girard. Another great week for him. The leading scorer for the Yellow Jacks recorded another 30-piece during their 73-38 win over Northeast last week. The Jackets are 16-5, 7-1 in the region, and he'll be the focal point when Girard takes on Fairview tomorrow night with first place in Region 6 on the line. Guys, only two games left. Girard's are Fairview in GM, so 2 big games, but you win those and they three-peat in the region.
Death, taxes, and Paul propping up Girard.
Listen, I'd complain if you were wrong, but
someone accused us. Tom Koval was on the pod on Thursday, and he accused us of living in Mark Schreier's basement. I don't understand that. We could also be accused of living in Marcia McCormick's basement in the fall, but we just say who's. What,
you know what? Do better. Do better. That's
we pander to the successful. Is that wrong?
Isn't that what we're paid to do?
Right.
Correct.
No, I think that's a good one. And jokes aside on Girard, I mean, it's just another great year. Godoy just seems like we could, put him on repeat on this segment every week. So, no, congratulations to them. IP, what do you got?
You know who else is 7-1 in the region? Is Erie First Christian. And one of the games that went under the radar in boys basketball on Friday, I didn't even get a chance to pick it up on the Thursday show, was their game against Mercyhurst Prep. And Erie First Christian exacts revenge on the Lakers from an earlier loss this season. They win 66-60. And if Kenny Godoy is Girard's go-to, we all know that Avery Collins is the guy who makes it roll for Erie First Christian. 26 points for him in the win on Friday night per Max Preps and Go Erie. He was sensational. And now you look at the Region 3 standings. Mercyhurst Prep and Erie First Christian are 7-1. This is going to be a fun battle down to the end because these two teams are evenly matched. It's been a combined 3 and 6 points margin of victory in the 2 games they've played each other. Avery was sensational on Friday night, and he might be taking a run at the best player in District 10 by the end of the year, if not already.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Erie First Christian is not exactly an athletic powerhouse. You know what I mean? Small school up on the hill. But Avery Collins is dominating against these teams. You know what I mean? Putting up 26 and putting up 30. Again, it's just another one of those players that you could put on repeat. I think what you just said about, making a case for D10 MVP, yeah. I mean, he's got the resume for it for sure.
He's got one of the best, if not, I think the best shooting touch in all of District 10. He'd be the one guy that I would trust to make a shot with no time on the clock, maybe over any player. And that's, again, saying something. There are a lot of talented players in District 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, there's not a lot of players to sleep on there. All right, well, let me go next. And I was hemming and hawing early on because I wanted to go first. I was afraid somebody was going to steal this.
You gave it to me.
But every week, I know, but no. But every week I feel like I'm the one that has to bring it up, but I'm going to do it again this week. Michaela Presser-Palmer, fellas.
The evergreen.
Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh, you want to talk about a talent, maybe MVP of District 10, not even just girls basketball, of basketball.
That's fair.
Presser-Palmer becomes Northwestern's all-time leading scorer with 1,623 career points during the Wildcats' 41-37 win over Seneca. And this was a game that you wanted to see out of Northwestern, looking at the region. I think, playoffs are going to come down to them and Seneca, so this was maybe a little bit of a preview. Presser-Palmer scores 17 in that game to pass Chandra Phillips as the all-time leading scorer for Northwestern girls basketball. Per Time Reisenweber, Presser-Palmer is collecting D1 offers and is up to 1,623 points in her career, which puts her in the top 10 in Erie history. And by the way, she's a
got
junior.
another year.
She's
Yeah.
a junior.
You know what the crazy thing was, too, about that game? And I know that obviously the accolade is what we look at here, but, I got the book from Northwestern on Thursday night, and I looked at the box score, and I'm thinking they didn't play well in the first half. Seneca was up 24-12 at the break. And so I think this is for Steve Sawin. He preaches a lot of defense. And though Michaela is that player who can get them out of trouble, that defense in the second half is what he wants to see come playoff time, because I think, Michaela will be able to take you through the district. Once you get to states and teams key in on her and she doesn't have the greatest game, do you have the role players that can A, play defense, and B, provide a big spark when you absolutely need it? Northwestern scored 41 points. Michaela only had 17 of them. So that's a huge positive sign for Northwestern moving forward. But, Nick, I'd agree with you. I think it's between her and Lake Fields. For District 10 Player of the Year, without question. I think those are the two that you look at and you say it's a no-brainer between those two.
Yeah. And Northwestern,
Addie Beal's been good too.
Yeah.
And so by the way, so is Bree Height for Fairview, who ran over 1,000 points for her
She
career.
was one. She was one I had on here too.
Had some good ones. I think going back to the Northwestern game, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is good for Northwestern girls basketball because once you get to the state playoffs or even the PIW, like the region, you're going to play close games. You're not going to blow out state playoff teams. So I think it's good for them to play a close game now to sort of get that sense of urgency, to see what it feels like to have to fight, to scratch and claw, and have to come back, because you're just not going to walk away with 20-point victories all the way to the state finals. It's not going to happen. You're going to play talented teams. You got to learn how to play in close games. I think that was good for them moving forward.
Well, and I think that's my biggest concern for them moving forward because, yes, they played Seneca and they were able to win this game. They got 2 games left at Iroquois, at Mercyhurst Prep, both who they've already beat this year.
Right.
I always worry about an undefeated team going into playoffs, right?
Yep, always.
When does that loss come? Because they're not overconfident, but,
complacency. Absolutely. We see it on every level.
Oh, we saw it last night in the Super Bowl. But to be continued there. So I worry a little bit about that with Northwestern going into playoffs. But, you're right. If they can't shut down MPP, then it's going to be a big deal.
I'm not that worried just because of the way Steve Sawin teaches his teams. He's very fundamentally sound. He's very one game at a time. And I think that the great thing for Northwestern is that you can learn a lot as if it was a loss from a win like you had against Seneca. And I think now, having swept the season series, with all due respect to Iroquois and Mercyhurst Prep, I think Northwestern's going to finish the regular season undefeated.
Yeah.
And you look at them going into the district and likely the state playoffs, and you say, okay, what's the one thing that you'd like to share up? I think maybe a little bit more depth scoring. Courtney Eddy's been really, really good for this Wildcat team as well at the guard position. But, man, Michaela Presser-Palmer is not going to have 30-point games in every game of the state playoffs, but she darn near well is going to be pretty close to that. And how do you stop her?
I was going to say at this point, I think you can count on it. Well, we're here for it. It's great content. Congratulations to all the D10 players this week. What a great week of play. And I'll take that MPP pick every week. All right, that was the North Shore Rewind, brought to you by Duskus Funeral Home. When we get back, we're catching up on some Otters talk. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. All right, we teased it a little earlier. We're giving away a 4-pack of Otters tickets. All you have to do is give us a follow on social media, whether that be Facebook, X, Instagram, wherever you can find us, at GemCitySN. Give us a follow, and then send us a DM. We're opening up the DMs. Send us a picture or a description of your favorite Otters memory or photo of your Otters memorabilia. Show off your Otters swag and what you have, and we will go through and select a winner for a 4-pack of Otters tickets. Again, give us a follow at GemCitySN. Follow us on social media and send us your favorite Otters memory or photo of your Otters memorabilia, and that'll get you a 4-pack of Otters tickets to a game of your choice. All right. Speaking of the Otters, I think it's a good time to kind of catch up on some Otters talk. We've had some news. Let's play this clip from over the weekend.
Worked up the near wall. Left wing side. Themis in front. He scores! Back-to-back power play goals. Pano Themis, determination, will, and just enough mustard to get past the goal line.
Just enough mustard. That'd be terrible. I don't like mustard. The Erie Otters endured their worst loss.
Too much, just enough.
Just a little taste. Their worst loss in 3 seasons on Friday night, falling 10-3 to the Steelheads in Brampton. But then they bounced back on Saturday with a 7-4 win over Sudbury for the team's first regulation win of 2025. That makes it sound good, but that's not good.
Until you realize it's February.
Yeah. So, just to kind of do a quick catch-up, head coach Stan Butler was suspended on the 16th, fired on the 27th, quote, due to ongoing internal review of team policy. Since then, the Otters are 5-7. So my question this morning, as we start to finish out, how many games did you say were left in the regular season, Paul? 19?
19.
Yeah. So, and a lot of home games, a lot of good can still come from this. But what does a head coaching change in the middle of a season do to team morale, team momentum, things like that?
That's a tough one, man. So in the middle of the season, you're obviously not going to switch up scheme. I mean, you may alter your plans a little bit, rotational packages, personnel, things like that. But you're not going to change a whole lot in terms of how you stylistically approach the game. Obviously, they kept all the assistants, so everybody's on board with what they were doing previously. I think the coach firing more or less sends a message. I think it's more mental and emotional than it is physical, and when it comes to X's and O's. So I think the Otters are at this point. It comes down to execution, and a lot of that execution depends on how talented your players are. And when you're missing a lot of your talented players, including arguably your most talented player hasn't been on the ice for you in 2 months, a lot of that's going to be real tough to deal with. But I look at everything as compared to NFL. I said, well, what happened in the NFL? Like so-and-so got fired and so-and-so took over. A lot of it is like when Dan Campbell took over in Miami, they were the same team before firing Joe Philbin. But when Dan Campbell took over, it was a team that the next week they just came out to play. Like they just wanted to punch somebody in the face. And you can see that. They're running the same plays. It's the same guy under center. Same thing with the Otters. Same guys in goalie. Same guys you're going to line up on defense, and your offensive players are the same ones. It's emotionally, how do they attack practice? How do they attack the game? How motivated are they internally to really take this thing to the rink, because they're playing against absolute, stud competitors who want for themselves as much as the Otters should want for themselves. So it's an emotional thing, and they just haven't seemed to round the corner quite yet.
I think from a strategy perspective, the thing that Stan Butler tried to bring to Erie was more of a defensive, hard-to-play-against game. So what concerns me, and you mentioned, Nick, their worst loss in a few seasons when they lost to Brampton, gave up 10 goals. And then you look at the rest of the games that they've played really since that stretch in the last 12. Noah Erledin's gone 7 straight, giving up 3 goals or more. What's concerning to me is, did that message really resonate before Stan Butler, for whatever reason it was, isn't in Erie anymore? And so I think when you lose Matthew Schaefer, who may have been the number one pick in the NHL draft and still might be the number one pick in the NHL draft, depending, you have to grind so hard to fit that defensive philosophy and scheme. And so what happens is your scoring takes a bit of a hit. We've seen it a little bit at the top of their score sheet. Kerry Terrance has struggled a bit. Martin Misiak has had a couple of big goals in the last couple of weeks, but really hasn't been to his full potential. It's really been Alfano, Themis, and Spence who have been the three guys who have been able to put points on the board. So my big question is going to be moving forward is two things strategy-wise for Erie. Can the defense buckle down like Stan Butler wanted them to when he was with the team? And are you able to create scoring chances off the rush more so than you've been able to? Because a guy like Schaefer allowed you to do that. He could play a 200-foot game. Now, as you get close to the playoffs, you're going to be chasing teams going into the first and second round that are legitimate superstar teams. And we're going to get into that in a second. But your level of play offensively and really on the defense with giving up goals is going to have to increase, I think, if you want a chance to make a run at this thing.
So, Matthew Schaefer fractured his collarbone during the IIHF Junior Championship in Ottawa when he was away from the team, and he's reported to be back at the end of the month here. So that's good timing considering, a playoff push and we're playing games into March. What does this team need to do? I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe instead, let me take it this way. What are the chances of this team turning it around to go into a playoff push after March?
I think it's possible because they've got the talent. I mean, talent-wise, this team is near, I wouldn't say right at, but near where the 2017 team was in terms of talent. When you look at specifically the top end, for me, the number one thing would be goaltending. I think Noah Erliden is a stud goaltender, but his play has been a little off just from what I've seen in the last few weeks. And I mentioned the 7 straight giving up 3 goals or more. I believe 8 of the last 9 he's given up 4 or more as well in goal. And it's not that in the OHL you're used to giving up 1 or 2 goals a game, but you'd like to see that number go down. I say that because if you're the Otters, you look up at the standings, and right now you're in a battle just to get a home playoff round. You're not going to catch London. You're not going to catch Kitchener. You're not going to catch Windsor. So right now you're locked in a battle with your American counterpart in Saginaw to try to get a top 4 seed and make the playoffs at home. If Erie's got to go on the road and win 3 rounds away from home, it's going to be really tough to make the finals. So I think you're going to have to get better goaltending, better on defense. Schaefer coming back, if he does at the end of the month, will help with that. But right now, you need to just focus on getting a home playoff series because that will be gigantic come playoff time to try to win a round.
8 games left in the month of February, starting with Niagara at home on Wednesday night. This can go one of 2 ways, okay? So you've got 11 games. So let's assume, this is assuming Schaefer comes back, we'll say March 1st. You're going to have 11 games with your best player. You've got 8 games to get there. This is I don't want to say a completely new roster, but because of the rule changes and whatnot, the Otters brought in a lot of those college sort of one-and-done players that are going to be headed off to the NCAA next season. They're going to have an opportunity here in the month of February to become more cohesive as a group, to get these new pieces and parts fit into this system and kind of work that depth. See how everybody's going to get more reps, more game time minutes to improve themselves before the playoffs, before the starters start working their way back in. Then they got to get themselves rolling again. They're going to have 11 games to get this thing going as you enter the playoffs when you want to be at your peak. You want to be the best now and then kind of tail off. Yeah. You want to be playing your best hockey at the end of March. So can they get the depth rolling now, get the experience that they need when come playoff time? The depth pieces, your starters go out, the depth comes in, and they play like you haven't lost anything? Or is it going to be, they're going to be too just disjointed? You got the backups in now, then by the time the starters get back, the lineups are going to be all herky-jerky, and nobody's going to really know how to play with each other. So by the time the playoffs come around, you're technically at full strength, but we haven't been around each other long enough to kind of figure out our qualms and P's and Q's and how to play with each other. So this is that fork in the road that the Otters can go one way or the other.
Speaking of Wednesday,
herky jerky.
You like herky jerky?
Print that on a T-shirt.
Speaking of Wednesday, can we make the announcement?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to transition to the next. Go ahead.
So the Gem City Sports Podcast is going to be live from the Erie Insurance Arena on Wednesday night. We can't wait for this.
I'm excited.
Paul Adamczyk and I are going to be inside the arena Wednesday night. 6 o'clock is the start of our show. We're going to talk all Otters, hopefully have a few guests along the way. Special thanks to Sean Bednard for letting this happen. We're hoping to do this a few times this year, but before puck drop, you can join us online, or just join us in person and come to the game. Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we will be live on the air from the Erie Insurance Arena before the Otters and the Ice Dogs, and then you can take in some hockey. We're pumped. This is going to be awesome.
We'll have Otters tickets to give away there.
We
too,
will
so
have
that'll
Otters
be
tickets
good.
to give
Oh,
away.
yeah.
No, yeah. So check those guys out. Unfortunately, I'm gonna be there, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun nonetheless. Not as fun because I won't be there, but
We'll
still-
do it again later
Still
in the
good
year.
enough. No, I want to circle back to the what'd you say, herky jerky?
Herky jerky.
Circle back to the herky jerky because I think you said something in among the herky jerky that was really important, and I think it's can that team come together, and I think that's one thing that can happen when you have an unfortunate coach mistake happening, or not a mistake. I got just a coach let go happening, firing happening. Then you can see a team rally around, and you rally around them.
Correct.
You still have Terrance, or I'm sorry, you still have my scrolling up. Sam Alfano has 30 goals. Femus has 21. Spence has 21. Terrance has 19. So, like Isaac's saying, the team has the talent.
There's a ton of talent.
Yeah. So I think that there is a chance that they can bring that back. Plus, if you get Schaefer coming back around, I think that's a deadly way to turn
Can
the
he be the
season
glue?
around.
Yeah. Big question too is and you don't want to break this line up because Spence, Alfano, and Femus have been great, but do you, if you're Wes Wolf, potentially juggle your lines to get some of that talent on other lines as
Yeah.
well? That'll be a big question heading into the month of February.
Joel, do we still have time for a 2-minute drill? No. Well, that's okay. We'll save we'll save the 2-minute drill. We'll get it in at the top of the next segment. But let's wrap it up like this. So again, we're giving away a 4-pack of Otters tickets. Give us a follow at Gem City SN, Gem City Sports Network on social media. Give us a follow. Send us your favorite Otters memory or a photo of your Otters memorabilia, and we will mail you out a 4-pack of Otters tickets to a game of your choice. Before we take our next break, I want to take a second and thank all of our sponsors: Quick Fill, Duska's Funeral Home, Dauber Auto Supply, John's Wildwood Pizza, Denny's Sales and Service. Without them, we wouldn't be here for you. When we get back, we're recapping the big game that happened over the weekend. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Before we get into the big game, we spent too much time honking about hockey. I do want to go back and hit Mr. Clean's 2-minute drill. You ready, Paul?
I'm ready when you are.
Let's hit it.
All right, let's start off with the National Signing Day was last week. We had a number of Division I athletes here in District 10, and I wanted to list them. From Cathedral Prep, Allison Bender is going to Colgate for cross country and track and field. Addie Beals going to Appalachian State to play basketball. Maria Costa is going to James Madison for swimming and diving. McDowell's Jake Hauer is going to Cornell to play baseball. Meadville's Emma Parks is going to Marquette to play volleyball. And Sharpsville's Lily Polko is going to Michigan to play softball. Congratulations to all of you. Going over to the Gannon men's basketball, they locked up the PSAC West top seed with an 84-62 win over IUP. Tasman Goodrick led with 23 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 assists. Gannon dominated the paint and outscored IUP 48-25 in the second half. The Golden Knights, now 18-6, are headed to Slippery Rock on Wednesday. Over in women's ice hockey, Mercyhurst stunned number 8 Penn State with a 3-2 comeback win. Vanessa Upson had a goal and an assist, including the game winner in the third. Julia Shalin added a goal and an assist as well, while Jordan Madison made 33 saves. The Lakers, now 17-13-2, will host Syracuse next weekend. In women's basketball, Edinburgh dominated Pitt Johnstown 79-55, led by Gabby McDuffie's 22 points and 8 rebounds. Morgan Gentile added 17 points, 7 assists, and 5 steals. And Ava Haddad and Ashton Boggs combined for 23 points as the Scots improved to 19-4 overall, set to make a run in the PSAC playoffs. Over at Penn State Barron, the women's basketball team improved to 13-0 in AMCC play with a 77-61 win over Penn State Altoona, extending their win streak now to 11 straight. Rachel Majeski led with 18 points, Madeline Boyer added 17, and Morgan Altavia chipped in 11 with 7 assists. And I got one more. Penn State Barron's Brandon Konecki, Harbor Creek grad, set a new indoor long jump record at the Brockport Multi, leaping 23 feet 3 1/4 inches to break a 15-year-old record. He finished first and secured a regional qualification, while another Girard grad, Dom Marino, added a runner-up finish in the 60-meter hurdles with a personal best 8.79. I did have to throw Dom in because I coached him, but it's a great time in the 60-meter hurdles.
Great stuff.
No, like Joel said off air, I mean, the 2-minute drill is one of my favorite segments too, so we had to get it in there. We were going back and forth, but so many good things happening.
I was
going to
say, and if you look at it, I try to do at least one story from every school, but you know how much I have to leave on the floor? Like, there's 3 great stories from Gannon this week, and I can only pick one.
Yep.
So,
yep,
because you only give me 2 minutes. It's not the 54-minute drill.
Well, I mean, if you want a 54-minute drill, we can squeeze one in on the Pod Network this week.
We can figure it out. I don't know. Maybe we could pitch to the boss about an extra hour. You know, we'll just have it like the.
So it's
Paul Adams
2 minutes
hour.
once I finish and reading it, but it's like 90 minutes of prep just for those 2 minutes. So.
Well, speaking of what felt like 2 minutes, let's talk about the big game here. Let's transition out. Jalen Hurts led the Philadelphia Eagles to a dominant 40-22 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59, earning MVP honors as the Eagles' relentless defense sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times and ended Kansas City's 3-peat hopes. This game, listen, I know social media is abuzz with how bad this game was. I loved every second of it.
What was bad about it? There's nothing bad about it.
I love a good defense, and this game was so much fun to watch. And not because of Mahomes losing. Like, I don't care about the 3-peat. Like, people want to prop up the Chiefs like they're the Patriots of old. The Patriots were the bad guys. They cheated and scratched and clawed their way to the Super Bowl every year. I mean, Tom Brady's an excellent quarterback, even though we left him on our top 5 list. Joel was mad at us about that. But, the Chiefs are not the bad guys. They're a great football team.
Yep.
But the Eagles just dominated on both sides of the ball, and it showed.
You know what's funny is last week, 2 weeks ago, we sat in this very room and pondered why the Bills couldn't beat the Chiefs and what it would take to beat Kansas City and what the formula was. We have now twice in the biggest stage of the NFL seen what the exact formula it is to beat the Chiefs and to beat any good team.
Yep.
You have to win up front. We saw Tampa Bay's defensive line own Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl a few years back. Last night, the defensive line, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, whoever, 6 sacks on Patrick Mahomes. And the crazy thing about it was, I saw a stat at the end of the game last night. Patrick Mahomes had 42 dropbacks in the game. You guys want to take a guess how many of those 42 times the Eagles blitzed?
I have
0.
I was going to say I
Zero.
have it. 0.
None.
They're with a 42.9 pressure percentage. Like, just a 4-man rush.
Right.
They had a
Yeah.
almost 50% pressure percentage with no blitzes. That's insane.
And that's the crazy thing is you look and it's like, oh, it seems so simple to win games, but that's the truth. The offensive line dominated. Jalen Hurts was able to get out and run the football really well. And it's amazing when you get pressure, even in a great quarterback's face like Patrick Mahomes, he has to make quick decisions and he struggles. And now twice in Super Bowls, we have seen teams been able to do this. And so now there's the blueprint, Bills. It's on the table for you. Get to the quarterback without having to send more than 5 or 6, and you will win the football game. And the Eagles did it to perfection last night.
Defensive linemen are going to get bags in free agency, and you're going to see them creep up higher in the draft as well, I think, because of this game.
So a couple of points. It is incredible how simple the game of football is and how complicated that, like, people like us who talk on the radio and coaches and this and that and all the interviews and all the X's and O's and the hours of film study that we put in, how simple the game is in reality. If you win the line of scrimmage, you tend to win the football game. Beyond that, football is a numbers game. When you're able to get a +1 advantage, either offensively or defensively, which essentially the Eagles' one-man advantage was they were rushing 4 and they were beating 5. 5 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
They were winning 4 on 5 over and over and over. And when you can win 4 on 5, that allows you to drop 7 into coverage, and you have 4, maybe 5 eligibles out in routes. And that's if the Chiefs don't hold Pacheco in the backfield to try to stop Josh Sweat. So then you got 4 eligibles in the rest. You got 7 on 4. It's almost 2 on 1 across the board. So it is incredible. And I've been doing a lot of draft study the last couple of weeks, especially. I'm a draft geek.
Check out the draft pod on Gym City Sports
Yes.
Network.
There you go. Appreciate that. But one of the guys who does it best has been Howie Roseman. And the percentage of lineman picks he makes and just defensive side of the ball picks he makes. Offensively, we can find guys. We'll trade for an A.J. Brown. We can find you can't find Saquon Barkley in free agency every year, but you can pick up a guy in free agency. We can trade for a Jahan Dotson. Okay, they drafted the other receiver 6, Devontae Smith real high, but it's kind of an anomaly because you look at the number 1 picks they have. I mean, from 10, 12 years. How long has Graham been playing? Brandon Graham's been in Philadelphia
Long
since
time.
like Rocky 1. All right, he's been there a long time.
I think since Andy Reid was there. The first
probably.
time. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So like they're drafting defensively, especially along in the trenches, and like it's working out for them. They've been in the Super Bowl now 4 in the last 6 years or something like that, or 4 times in his career as GM there. So just an incredible hit rate at the most important positions in football. When we go in a couple of months and talk about the corners and the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, and they're all important, but like offensive, defensive linemen.
Yeah, the trenches.
The trenches are really what is most important in this game.
The Eagles win 2 Super Bowls with Nick Foles and Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback.
Exactly.
And the crazy thing about the game last night, they put up 40 points and Saquon Barkley was nearly invisible. I mean,
averaging
I think,
like 2
2 yards a
2.5
carry.
a rush.
I think
2.3.
The other thing in this game that we have to talk about, in addition to the defense, is that Jalen Hurts is now an elite quarterback. That guy was accurate to a crazy extent last night. It started with the pass that got negated by a ridiculous OPI call, and it ended with Hurts making that bomb to Devontae Smith, who became the first Alabama player to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Crazy
I heard
enough.
that this morning.
But
crazy.
wild to me. But, you look at this Eagles team now, and it's almost like the Brock Purdy conversation with the Niners. I think Jalen Hurts is such in a good spot with Philadelphia. He has talent around him, but now he's a guy who he can use his mobility to his advantage. He can stand up in the pocket because he has a great offensive line. And he's not going to command, I don't think, $60 to $70 million per se. But Philadelphia, I'm sure, could pay him if they wanted to. This Eagle team, folks, they ain't going anywhere.
No.
And I would think they are the overwhelming favorites as the Super Bowl 60 predictions coming up next year.
Absolutely. Eagles, Jalen Hurts set a Super Bowl record, by the way, for quarterback with 72 rushing yards as well. I don't know if you threw that in there or not. But
They're going to be on their 4th offensive coordinator in 4 seasons, though, next year.
Yeah.
As Kellen Moore is going to take the job in New Orleans.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see how they pull that through.
Doesn't seem to matter. And Nick Sirianni, an emotional fraternity boys club coach, has one of the best resumes in 4 seasons as a head coach as anybody in the NFL.
Highest win percentage of active head
It is
coaches.
amazing to me how he continues to win games with that team.
And he was on the hot seat at the start of the year.
He was at the hot seat halfway through the season.
Yeah, yeah. You had him right up there with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah. PSAC coach.
Yeah, wide receivers coach at IUP.
Yep.
There's actually IUP tweeted this out as fast as they possibly could. There's actually like 3 former IUP staffers on that team. But you're right. I think Hurts had a great game. I mean, he didn't necessarily, have that like Mahomes Brady style Super Bowl, but I mean, he absolutely deserved the MVP. Threw for 2 touchdowns, 221. I do. I mean, only because you can't give the MVP to an entire defense.
Okay. So thank you for saying that. Because
If you could give it to a coach, Vic Fangio,
They did it.
Absolutely.
They did it in 2000 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't know
The
that.
entire Bucs defense was the MVP of that game. Thank you for letting me say that on the radio. That's the last time that happened. Last night that should have happened.
It should have
No
happened
disrespect
again.
to
No, I
Jalen Hurts
agree.
whatsoever. The defense, 6 sacks, 11 quarterback pressures. No blitzes. They picked off 2 passes, returned one of them for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, what else?
Yeah.
Defense MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
They held
I agree.
Mahomes to 6 points before they stopped trying.
And likely no one on that defense is leaving. The back end is a bunch of babies with DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. The front is a bunch of babies with all Georgia guys who won the championship against TCU. I'll tell you what, it was funny. Someone tweeted out last night, no wonder the Eagles are blowing out the Chiefs because half of their team blew out TCU 2 years ago in the national championship game. They're used to this kind of thing.
So, yeah, I saw Nakobe Dean won like 2 national championships and a Super Bowl in a 4-year span.
That's insane. It's insane.
No, it's not going anywhere. And yeah, because I was looking at that last night. I'm like, okay, well, Josh Sweat had 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams had 2 sacks. I mean, you had the 2 interceptions. Like
Jalen Carter is the straw that stirs the drink.
He didn't
Everything
show
works
up on
around him.
Right, and he didn't necessarily show up on the stat
No,
sheet.
because he's the one who got double teamed
out of the
every
5,
single
right.
play. So that means you got 3 one-on-ones, and you just need one guy to win. And Carter was still winning because he was the one who was forcing the depth of the pocket, making Mahomes go left or right. So you got Sweat on with unbelievable.
As
that
if
guy.
our comments and the other comments around the nation aren't enough. Philadelphia's defense is legit when Kansas City, the best creative offensive team in the league, comes out and refuses to run the football. I think they ran it about 3 times in the entire first half, and that to me was Andy Reid saying, we know we are not as good with the best quarterback arguably in the league minus Tom Brady in history to be able to run the football. That is a
3 carries, 7 yards.
scary admission from last night.
That's it.
Well, and let's talk about that. So we've talked. Obviously, the Eagles deserve this win. They dominated this game. But let's talk about the Chiefs for a second because, I mean, even Taylor Swift couldn't help the Chiefs. They lost for the first time in 10 games this season with the pop star watching from a suite. That was a fun stat that I pulled from the AP News. Kelsey didn't catch a pass until late in the third quarter. Mahomes, I'm getting lost in my notes here. Mahomes he was shut out in the first half for just the 3rd time in his career. The Chiefs had 23 yards and just 1 first down going into the half, and Mahomes was 6 of 14 for 33 with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Yep.
Was this just a complete domination by the Eagles, or did you see the Chiefs start to maybe unravel a little bit?
You know, I think it's interesting because I think for the first time since Tampa Bay, we saw a team that wasn't afraid of Kansas City. And what I mean by that is not afraid of the aura of the Chiefs. Philadelphia came out, they had a game plan, they knew what they were good at, they stuck to their strengths. And we've seen so often, whether it's Buffalo, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Pittsburgh, you name it, that teams try to switch strategies in key moments against Kansas City. And so I think what the learning lesson should be for the Chiefs here is we're going to have to go into our bag of tricks even more so than we've been in the last few years because maybe we have the rest of the AFC fooled, but if our standard is winning Super Bowls, and it clearly is, these NFC teams now, they don't see us that often. They don't care that we are the Chiefs. You wonder if Travis Kelce will retire. I think that will certainly put a hole and a void in the Chiefs team. Make no mistake, with Mahomes,
He looked like he retired at halftime.
right? With Mahomes and Reed, they are they're going to probably be back in the Super Bowl, and I still say that they'll be back in almost every single year. But you wonder now if there is a ceiling that Kansas City has hit, given the fact that they ran into a younger, more aggressive, more abrasive, and smarter last night team than them.
Well, let's put a pin in that because that leads us perfectly into one of my overreactions for overreactions.
You've got one
on
too.
Monday.
This
Oh
is
yeah,
gonna be awesome.
I brought one this week because I couldn't help myself. So yes, the Eagles celebrate their second Super Bowl title while Mahomes and the Chiefs face an offseason of rebuilding after falling short of the NFL's first Super Bowl three-peat. Like I said, this game was awesome. I loved every second of it. It was good to see defense win championships. I love to see the battle at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
I love to see Barkley get the Super Bowl as well. Seeing him have the title it was just awesome. We got to take a break, but when we get back, we're not done. We've got some Overreaction Monday for you. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. I didn't even ask you guys, what were your Super Bowl snacks? What would you go to?
Ooh. We made pizza, ordered wings, just had like chips, cookies, just the
staples.
normal.
Yeah, similar. I mean, I didn't go all out. In fact, my wife and the kids were away for the first quarter of the game, so I pretty much just made pasta and sat on my couch.
I made ribs. I love that's part of my.
I saw that.
I was
love-
jealous when you
God.
posted that. I'm
Yeah.
like, I got to go over to the Artman's house. and do some of that.
We'll have to have a flagship Gem City Super Bowl party one time, and we'll just
I like it.
make a
Why
bunch of
Super
barbecue.
Bowl? Let's just make it like a monthly party or something like that.
Just sort of a hooray, it's Monday.
Yes,
Whatever.
exactly. Got through the week.
Well, now I'm just hungry. All right. Well, it's Monday, so you know what? We got to do a little overreacting. All right, so let me think about this, and let me set this up first. I got the first one coming in. First one coming in. And this kind of goes back to what you were just talking about. Did they figure out the recipe of success against Mahomes? After the Super Bowl loss, Patrick Mahomes will never appear in another Super Bowl.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's not only an overreaction. That's insane.
That's a ridiculous overreaction.
Those are the musings of an insane person.
I mean, it goes back to the point that I was saying is you have to understand that like the AFC right now needs to get out of the coma of we have to change our strategy, and until that happens, I mean, Kansas City to me just had a bad game. I don't know if they would have won the game even if they would have played well, but my goodness, I mean, this team still with Mahomes and Reed. I don't know strategically outside of Philadelphia there was any team this year that out-schemed them.
They lost the Super Bowl before and then went on to win the next two and appear in the next three. So I think they're fine. Mahomes is still a generational talent at quarterback. There's some holes. Every team has holes.
Yeah.
Brett Veach isn't a moron. I thought they tried to address the offensive line earlier in the year, like for this season, and unfortunately, like everybody else, they had some injuries. Joe Tooney's a guard. They had him playing left tackle last night. So, I mean, they weren't perfect. Everybody's dealing with injuries, but they'll address the holes and the deficiencies on the roster, and they'll probably be back next year.
I understand where you're coming from, though, because, Kelsey may retire. You're getting older on defense, but how
many more years does Andy Reid have left?
Right. I
think that's a bigger question.
Right. But I think when you look at this Chiefs team, they're built to win because they're so good strategically. So they'll do a great job more than other teams at looking at this film and saying, this is the best we're going to see out of any team in the league, and this is what we have to do to correct it. And I think maybe if they played next year in the Super Bowl, I'd probably put my money on the Chiefs again because that's how good they are strategically.
See, and I'm not just trying to fire you up like Isaac does. I mean, just ask the best quarterback that's never won a Super Bowl, Dan Marino, how hard it is to get back. It's hard to get back to the Super Bowl. And I know we're used to Mahomes getting back, right? And I'm not saying, I agree. I'm not saying Mahomes is going to fall apart and he's going to be an average quarterback. I think he is one of the best in the league, if not the best. And I'm just saying it's hard to make it to the Super Bowl. And I get that we see them every year and it's become that reality. You're right. They're going to be on top of the bettings for next year to be back in the Super Bowl. That AFC is thick, right? I mean, we talk about Josh Allen and the Bills. You're looking at an up-and-coming Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Burrow is gonna come back. There's so much talent in the AFC that it's going to be hard to get through the AFC Championship, let alone make it to the Super Bowl. I do think there is a little bit of a recipe for success against Mahomes, and they did that against Brady too, right? Brady was unstoppable until you figured out that if you can pressure him, he gets a little happy feet and he makes some mistakes. You saw a little bit of that in Patrick Mahomes, a little bit of like ghosts in the backfield with him. So I'm not saying he's going to come back and have those ghosts for the rest of his life, a la Sam Darnold, but I think that pathway to the Super Bowl is not as guaranteed as we think. Oh, and then look at the Andy Reid. How many true years does Andy Reid really have left? And I think that's 50% of this, of Mahomes' success, is Reid. I'm not saying the Chiefs are a bad team. I'm not saying Mahomes is a terrible quarterback. I'm just saying that it's going to be really hard for them to keep up this level of success.
I don't disagree. I just think we'll just hit Mahomes is sort of like a bit simplistic. It's like, oh, you just go after the quarterback, huh? Like, if that were the case, wouldn't the Browns be in the Super Bowl because they've got one of the best guys at doing that?
Sure.
Knowing how to do something and then being able to do that thing is completely different.
Speaking of the Browns, I've got one more overreaction before we go. We talked about the defensive line, and now we know the blueprint to beat the Chiefs is to get to the quarterback. And the one team that is, in my opinion, I think everyone's opinion, so close in the AFC to doing that is Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills should get on the phone. They should call Andrew Berry today and should offer 3 first-round picks for Myles Garrett.
Should they? Yes.
I mean, that is right. That's the piece.
If the Bills get Myles Garrett, I will quit because my entire life is over.
I can't bet on that.
And I will just be insufferable sadness for decades.
I mean, we talk about you need to draft defense, you need to draft defensive line. Just do the smart thing, take one of the best defensive ends in the league and not worry about the draft for the next few years.
I think it's a great I think they need him. I think last time I looked, they're $15 million over the cap, so they'd have to get really creative with the cap space, which you can do. It's the
Cut
NFL.
Von Miller.
Yeah, seriously.
yes. Oh my
There's
gosh.
25% of your cap hit right there. And there's ways to do it. But 3 first rounds is a lot. But I think that's the type of offer that's going to have to be made for the Browns to make that move. I don't think they want to move on from Garrett. I think 2 first rounds is probably value.
So Cleveland, I can tell you this. Cleveland Talk Radio, the city of Cleveland, the area is not feeling so worried about Garrett leaving as maybe they were 48 hours ago.
Wait, 2 or
I'm
3
just saying
firsts?
they're cooling on that a bit.
Real quick, before we go, 4-pack of Otters tickets. Follow us on social media. Send us a message, and you could win a 4-pack of Erie Otters tickets. Erie, that's it. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Nick Artman, signing off for Paul Adamczak, IP Isaac Petcash, and the big boss Joel Natale. That's it. We're done. Have fun.